Hello, my name is Alexander Kerry. Welcome to the program. All eyes are on France for these days for the presidential election. Between judiciary problems and tensions in civil society, it has been a chaotic campaign and it's not over yet. This election will define French domestic and international politics for the 5 years to come. It might be a historic turning point in European history. What will be the consequences of these elections? What are the candidates willing to change or not? And what does it mean for Ukraine? Joining me in the studio to discuss French election and the future of European society is Olivier Costa, researcher at CNRS, head of studies at the European College of Bruges, and specialist of the European Union. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
So first question, let's have a quick recap of every big candidate's position towards Europe. We know, for example, that Marine Le Pen and Jean-Luc Mélenchon are strongly against Europe. Can you tell us more about it?
Okay, let's say we have 5 main candidates. We have first the extreme right candidate Marine Le Pen, who's against Europe, and basically she wants to leave, to quit the European Union because she's talking a lot about sovereignty. Then we have François Fillon. He is the right-wing candidate. He is pro-European, but at the same time he's in favor of a quite intergovernmental Europe, maybe in the style of Charles de Gaulle. Then we have Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's a former communist candidate, who's quite critical towards the European Union, who would like to reshuffle the whole European thing, and basically, since this is not possible, this would mean leaving the European Union. We have also Emmanuel Macron. He's a centrist candidate, and he's the only one to be really pro-European. And then we have the socialist candidate, but he has no chance to win, and he is pro-European, but a bit critical as well with the European Union.
But there is this paradox. Marine Le Pen is willing to have a strong France, let's put it that way, but wouldn't it make France weaker to go out of Europe now?
Clearly, people who are calling for a Frexit, leaving the European Union, they are populist and they're promising some things that will not work. It would be a catastrophe from the economic standpoint, and France wouldn't get back its sovereignty. I think the situation is different from United Kingdom. I mean, the consequences will be negative for United Kingdom, but to some extent it can make sense because United Kingdom is an island and United Kingdom was not involved in all EU policies. But for France, it would be a total nightmare to organize leaving the European Union.
Would you say that a Frexit, as you said, would mean the end of Europe as we know it?
Oh yeah, for sure, because France is one of the founding countries of the European Union. It is very central also from a geographic standpoint, and having United Kingdom and then France leaving the European Union would really deprive the European Union from its sense. So it wouldn't be the end of European integration, but it would be the end of the European Union as it is, and the system would certainly need to be totally restructured.
Coming to relationships between Europe and international and other countries, there is a sort of a constant, which is Vladimir Putin and Russia's funds are often behind Eurosceptic parties. I'm thinking about UKIP, I'm thinking about National Front. What would Putin win from a disintegrated Europe?
We need to go back in Europe, in history, and think that USSR was fundamentally against European integration since the very beginning, and that European integration was also made in some way to protect European countries against USSR. And I think that Vladimir Putin is in that tradition, thinking that the European bloc is not good for him, especially thinking to countries that are a bit in between USSR and Europe, and in particular the situation with Ukraine. So for Vladimir Putin, the dismantling of European Union would be a very good thing, because individually the European countries are very weak, and collectively they're capable really to work in the system and in a global system.
And you spoke about Ukraine. It's a very good example for this. Euromaidan began with the will from Ukraine to go closer to Europe. Now, Europe voted for a visa waiver for Ukrainian citizenship. If there's a Frexit, will this decision be cancelled? Will the decision to integrate Ukraine to come into Europe will be slowed down, or? What will happen?
Oh, yes, certainly. I think if there is a Frexit, concretely, I don't know what would be the immediate consequence on European Union, but it would really make a stop to any project of European integration. It would freeze the negotiation of any kind. It would freeze the policies. And even if there is not a Frexit, even if we only have a candidate who's a strongly Eurosceptic guy or lady elected in France, one of the first things that person would ask would be to limit the freedom of circulation of people inside the EU, because the populist discourse is very much directed against that idea of free movement of people, and obviously also with people that are currently outside the European Union.
It's a bit of a catastrophic statement, but do you think it would mean not internal war, but like those closing borders would basically lead those blocs disintegrated to lead us to sort of war and the risk of war, a greater war?
I think so, because people are living with the idea that at least in the European Union, peace is there forever, which is not true. And I think if we start again with the disintegration of European Union, we could lead very quickly to situation of tension, conflict between countries, economic sanction and other sanction in the other way around. So I don't think that it would lead to war, but it could lead to war because of all kinds of tensions, and especially if we have a growing number of populist leaders inside European countries that are really ready just to attract the attention of people on something else and to prepare for war, just to distract citizens from other people at domestic level.
One of the critics of modern Europe is it's too liberal. Do you think a political alliance is possible without economical partnership or liberalism?
Oh yeah, it's possible. People are criticizing European Union because it's too liberal, but it's true that European integration was based first on the integration of the market. This is the choice that was made, or was the only available choice because the political integration was not possible. And today a lot of people are complaining, saying that it's too liberal. But this can be fixed. It just depends on how people vote. And currently in the European Union, mostly people are voting for right-wing parties, so it's quite logical that liberal trend continues. But once people would vote for parties that are more on the left, this can be changed and fixed, and some decision can be taken in order to limit the economic liberalism of European integration.
There has been inside the European Council, the European Parliament, tensions between especially Poland or Eastern countries and Western countries, let's put it that way, and Western countries weren't that much for multi-speed Europe, as Eastern countries were more asking for a multi-speed Europe. Do you think a multi-speed Europe is possible to create today?
I think a multi-speed Europe already exists to some extent. As you know, some policies like the euro or the European citizenship or some other part of social policy are already multi-speed Europe. And I really think that the only solution for the European Union to continue to move forward is to enter a more formalized multi-speed Europe. Then it creates tension between East and West, because basically Western countries are ready to go for multi-speed Europe, to go for deeper integration, whereas Eastern countries are still struggling to apply the European rule that exists, because it has been such a challenge for those countries to adapt to European norms when they entered in 2004 and 2007.
And actually, I'm speaking here about Ukraine, it's kind of a problem because they have to adapt to European standards, especially for energy, towards the energy crisis with Russia. And it might be an obstacle for those in Ukraine who believe that Europe might not save them from Russia. What do you say to them? What do you say to those people who are sometimes tempted to go back to the old model?
I think that currently European Union is not capable to develop a very well-organized foreign policy when the situation is not clear internally. I think the relationship between the 28 member states today are very complex, and I think the priority for them is to try to find common grounds on internal policies. Then I would say that external policy really comes second to that. And I would say that currently the situation of Ukraine is not central in the discussion between the 28. And it's very much a concern for the country on the eastern part of Europe, of a limited number of leaders like a president of the European Council, Donald Tusk. But for many other national leaders, the question of Ukraine is not on a top priority on the agenda because they are struggling with so many other issues.
Okay, thank you. Just one last question. So to continue to grow, if it can grow, how can Europe can be fixed?
I think it will depend very much on the result of a couple of elections that are to come in the European Union. The French election, because the outcome would be very different if we have a pro-European president or an anti-European president or a more critical president towards European integration. Depends very much on the result of the election, German election in September. It depends also now on the result of the British election, because Theresa May has just called for anticipated election. So we see that we are really in a two-level game, and that the future of European integration depends very much on the result of the next election in France, United Kingdom and Germany.
Well, thank you, Mr. Costa, for this interview. It was a pleasure to have you in the studios. That was Olivier Costa from France, speaking about French election and the future of Europe. Thank you for watching the program. Stay tuned for the rest.